The firefighter team had their radio on, so they could hear other teams talking. What had happened? What was the damage? Seconds later, they passed the Unit 3 building. 30 meters away from the truck, they saw the remains of Unit 4. It was 1:30 a.m., 7 minutes after the explosion. Hi guys, we're starting a new mini-series. This time it's going to be the story of brave firefighters who were called to Chernobyl moments after the disaster happened. First, we're going to cover the overall situation and background. Later, depending on how much will you like, comment and share our videos, we will include more and more stories in the mini-series. There were lots of people involved in the first response teams sent to Chernobyl, so we got tons of materials to make it interesting for a long time. But as always, at one point we will finish this part and move on to either a completely new miniseries or continue one that was already published. Anyway, let's start now. Chernobyl Firefighters Part 1 Number 3 Alarm. It was a quiet day in Pripyat. The whole town felt like a new place on Earth. The first settlers arrived years ago. Some of the buildings were over 10 years old, yet it wasn't like many other cities. As in Atomgrad, a nuclear city, it was controlled more than others. The KGB was unseen but constantly present, watching, noting, listening to discussions in a local cafe, in the workers' locker rooms, in shops, or even on the streets and on the phone lines. Even if someone didn't know for sure the intelligence forces were there, he must have felt it. As in Atomgrad, the city was not easily available to visit or even pass by. Maybe it wasn't so strictly regulated for any USSR citizen, but every newcomer or visitor was watched closely by all: locals, militia, and informants. The people of Pripyat couldn't complain. These were tough times for everyone in the Soviet Union, as decades of ill politics and a centrally planned economy, as well as foreign wars like the one in Afghanistan, finally started to take their toll on the society, both economically and mentally. Yet, citizens of one of the newest Atomgrads in the USSR had better stocked shops. They were usually paid better wages. One can say that if you would have to be born in the USSR, Pripyat would be one of the better places. The majority of their neighbors were fairly young, in their 30s and 40s, but people in their 20s were also a large group there. Vasily Ignatenko and his wife Lyudmila were 25 and 23 years old accordingly. A lot of their friends as well as co-workers were of similar age. After the calm day, the night was settling. When most of Pripyat's citizens were going to sleep, some of the Chernobyl power plant employees were getting ready to work. It was a quiet late afternoon of April 25th, 1986, and no one expected that in just a few hours, their lives would be changed forever. 23 minutes past 1 a.m., a huge shockwave woke up almost everyone in Pripyat. They didn't know what happened. They weren't accustomed to earthquakes. But a few glances outside their apartment's windows were enough. They saw a tall cone of light coming from Chernobyl plant, less than 3 kilometers from the edge of their city. After a shockwave hit, it didn't take long for the alarm bell in the paramilitary fire station number 2 to ring. The sound was hearable in every corner of the building, mobilizing the firefighters who acted on their trained behavior. Gear up and get to the fire trucks as quickly as you can. They didn't yet know what was the destination, but it soon revealed itself. First, thanks to the call to the dispatcher's room. The whole wall of warning bulbs, one for every room in the entire Chernobyl nuclear power plant complex, lit simultaneously. Just a few minutes earlier, they were woken up when their beds started to shake, along with everything inside the fire station. Windows sounded like they would pop out the wooden frames in a second. They were already putting on their thick boots when the alarm sounded. Without any hesitation, they ran towards the concrete apron in the front of the station. 3 trucks were waiting for them, ready to fight any danger. The keys were already in the ignition. When the 14 men of the third watch in the station headed up to Chernobyl, they soon understood that it was not a drill nor a mistake. They could see the beam of light and fires all over the horizon, mostly around the Unit 4 building. Before they left, they could hear the dispatcher shouting. There was a fire at the nuclear power plant. They saw a giant cloud rising into the sky above Units 3 and 4. They were less than a kilometer away, maybe 2 minutes by the fastest route. Sergeant Alexander Petrovsky, the youngest firefighter on the third shift, was 24 years old at that moment. In the hurry, he didn't catch his own helmet, so he took his lieutenant's service cap instead. Anatoly Zakharov was maneuvering the roads in the leading fire truck. He was one of the most experienced firefighters, and Petrovsky, who sat just beside him, was looking up to him. Zakharov, 33 years old, was also the fire station's party secretary. No one could say that he wasn't dedicated to his job. He was even working in another place as a lifeguard, watching over people taking a swim in the nearby Pripyat River. When Zakharov turned right, they saw the plant perimeter fence. They were rushing towards the gate, speeding almost to the verge of the fire truck's abilities. They passed the gate and the diesel generator station. They had their radio on, so they could hear other teams talking. What had happened? What was the damage? The enormously big Chernobyl complex was getting larger every second. With their helmets on, they couldn't see anything else besides the huge structures inside the power plant's perimeter area. Zakharov's truck was still speeding, and just when they accelerated towards the northern wall of the Unit 3 building, they reached the spot where Unit 3 and 4 were meeting. 30 meters away from the truck, they saw the remains of Unit 4. It was 1:30 a.m., 7 minutes after the explosion. When the firefighters from station number 2 arrived, there were already other trucks incoming. 2 extra tankers from the Pripyat City Brigade were just behind them. Lieutenant Pravik didn't have to understand advanced physics, let alone nuclear physics. He was also not an architect. But when he saw the buildings partially demolished, he knew it was serious. This kind of damage was not an ordinary fire. He was responsible for all of the firefighters, as he was the highest ranking at the time on the scene of the disaster. He took a second to think. Then, without any hesitation, he shouted, "Number 3 alarm." It was the highest possible level of an emergency alert. It meant that every single fire brigade in the whole Kiev region was to be summoned. Pravik knew that it wouldn't be an easy night. Their work could take as long as a few days, but no firefighter suspected, at that moment, that it wouldn't be enough to put the fires out. They didn't suspect they were fighting the unstoppable chain reaction of the nuclear fuel inside the exposed RBMK reactor. Thanks for watching, guys. This time it's the beginning of the new series. A lot of you asked about the firefighters, and however we will cover their work, we will focus on the first moments and days after the disaster happened. We will derive from this from time to time to cover a specific character of this whole tragedy, but we want to describe the overall background in detail. I really hope that you will embrace this new mini-series as well as the last ones. This is kind of hard to tell, especially since there is not much documentation on specific actions of particular people or units. Just general information or memories. Nonetheless, I will try to tell their story as well as I can, including some simplifications or my own imagination from time to time, like descriptions of one's feelings or other subjective emotions, as there is no confirmation of how anyone felt or what he thought. Just give me a small poetical license to enrich the story supported by facts with a bit of human touch and perspective. I also hope that you liked this video. If you did, please leave a comment, Chernobyl firefighters. And if you want to ask something, write your opinion on this video or suggest anything, feel free to do so. And as always, if you're into games, check out our Chernobyl ad game on PC, Xbox or PlayStation. That's it for today, guys. Take care, stay safe, and see you next week.